What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for May 9th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. It's Tuesday. You know what that means. It's time for a little bit of positivity / motivation. And full disclosure, I actually, as I'm planning out and doing my research the previous month, trying to see what we're going to talk about, I always, as some things come up or things that I kind of like to live by in my life, I add them to the list. And the past few weeks, these have really been hitting hard. And it's almost like my past self is trying to send messages to my future self. This one today comes from, I heard it on a Peloton ride, from Alex Toussaint. If you know who Alex is, you know how amazing he is. If not, look him up. Just some of the things he says, even if it's not a Peloton thing, he's just his story is very inspirational. And one of the days on the ride, he always talks about waking up and being thankful, and it's a gift, and whatever, enjoy that, like live your day to the fullest. And obviously that's easier said than done, but there are times where you feel the negativity or whatever creeping in. And he said something that really stuck with me. I used it with my team at work a couple times, and every now and then when things start, you start losing sight of the big picture, and it's recalibrate your energy. And to me, that is just such a profound thing to say, because there are times where in the daily grind, you feel yourself, you're starting to get stressed, or you're overwhelmed, or feeling those negative vibes kind of creeping in. And when you do that, it's easy to just get caught up in them and like have things start snowballing. And I'm kind of dealing with that myself right now. And it's just a good reminder to stop, recalibrate, and then move on. And when you move on with the positivity, and kind of it gives you a chance to recognize things are not going the way they should be, or going south a little bit. Stop, recalibrate, and go. And I actually have it written on, this is my office for work too. Again, full disclosure, I'm pulling back the curtain a little bit for you guys. So for you guys watching, right to the left of me here, I have my bulletin board / whiteboard that I keep things on. And it's right there in big, black, bold letters, recalibrate your energy. And it's something that I know I need to start doing more of, and just living by that creed. But today's motivational: recalibrate your energy. Recalibrate when things start going south, move on, and here we go. And I think that's a good segue into the Sixers, because that first game was great. The next two, not so much. And they had that moment. It came out yesterday that they had sort of a come to Jesus sort of players meeting where they basically called each other out, but like in a positive way, recalibrated, and then they came out with that greedy win in Game 4. And speaking of that Game 4, I saw something on Twitter from 97.5, the best show ever, and they were saying like there were so many people, I guess, calling in the radio station complaining about excuse me, just the way that game looked. And they had a poll question was, does the way you win matter? And everybody was like, yeah, we're worried, but they won. And it's the playoffs, so it's kind of like that do or die. And if it was the NFL, nobody would be saying shit about how the team looked. They'd be like, all right, we won, we're moving on. But I think because this is a 7-game series, you get caught up in how they play. Listen, right now, this is a best-of-3 series. The trends, actually, I've heard some things where Game 5s in Boston, they've lost like their last 3 or 4 in the playoffs these past couple, Game 5s in Boston. So maybe, I mean, they did it last round against the Hawks. I think last year against the Bucks, and then there was like a game or two the playoffs before. So things are trending the right way. And again, doesn't matter how they look. I don't care if they shoot 1 for 50. If they hold Boston to 0 for 50, that's a win in my book. So I just think it's a great point to kind of get back into perspective that doesn't matter how the game looks. Ugly wins count just as much as the pretty ones. All right, and we'll leave it at that. All right, Union in action tonight against Minnesota United Football Club. Flyers draft update. They did not move up. However, They also did not move down, which is good. So they're locked into that 7th pick, which is going to give me time now to start doing some of my research and really diving in and seeing, all right, what can they do there? Because obviously you had the top 2-3 picks were where you want it to be. Now you start getting into some of that area with the question mark. Now, they could get a very, very good pick. All signs seem to indicate and point to Danny Briere being the guy that's in charge for that, which I think based on what he's done and how he's really worked hard to get to this level, I think that's a good thing. But more on the Flyers, I know I had some people over the weekend say, hey, why don't you do more Flyer stuff? And hopefully now that they're getting some of the stank out of the building, I can do more Flyer stuff. But Phillies off last night. They're back in action tonight. Quick 2-game series against the Blue Jays. And I don't know about anybody else, but for me, the Blue Jays, I still have nightmares of Joe Carter. But enough of that. All right, today we are going to go back. We're going to stick with the Phillies. Go back to 1937. And on this day, May 9th, 1937, the Phillies lost to the Reds 21-10, which seems more of like a Bengals-Eagles score than a Reds-Phillies score. But the big story was Ernie Lombardi of the Reds went 6 for 6, had 6 of the Reds' 24 hits, 5 RBI. He tied the modern-day record, Major League record for consecutive at-bats with a hit in a 9-inning game. Now, we did talk about this a few weeks ago. Rennie Stennett of the Pirates had 7 at-bats in a game in 1975 to break this record. But on this day, Ernie Lombardi of the Reds went 6 for 6 in a 21-10 win over the Phils. Just a couple interesting facts as I was doing the research on this. Ernie Lombardi, he was a catcher. He could hold 7 baseballs in a hand. I saw a picture of it, and if you're watching on the video, like I don't know how he did. I can barely hold 3, but he held 7. Another thing, he was kind of the OG guy who they started to do shifts on back in this time because he was so slow. The infield would play on the edge of the outfield because it gave them more time, obviously, to catch the ground balls and throw him out because he was that slow. But he was no slouch. He won the batting title 2 times. So even though he was slow and they kind of did him dirty like that, he still won 2 batting titles. He's in the Hall of Fame. But those 1937 Phillies were atrocious. They were 61-92, 34.5 games back of the Giants. The only team worse than them in the National League, the Cincinnati Reds. But on this day, it was all about Ernie Lombardi of the Reds going 6 for 6 versus the Phillies in a 21-10 Phillies loss. All right, Sixers playoff spotlight. We're going to go back to 2008, 2009. In that season, they went 41-41, second in the Atlantic Division, but that was only good enough for the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Mo Cheek started as coach that season. They got off to a 9-14 start. They fired him and put Tony DeLeo in. Some highlights from that season, which I think is really cool. They brought back the 80s styles jerseys. They played the last game at the Spectrum against the Bulls before they closed it and eventually tore it down. Elton Brand was the big free agent signing, who is now our current GM. More on him in a minute. Ajay Iguodala led the team in scoring with 18.8 points per game. Samuel Dalembert, 8.5 rebounds. And Andre Miller with 6.5 assists per game. Brand, all that big splash, big signing, played in 29 games because of a shoulder injury. Also on that team were Thad Young, Lou Williams, guys that would become good pieces somewhere else, but we basically we were on that NBA purgatory. They lost in the first round that year to the Magic 4-2, but they were never quite good enough to get past like a 6 seed, but never good enough to get a good lottery pick. And this team in this era right here is eventually what led to the entire process, which got us where we are today. So in 2008, 2009, the Sixers 41-41, first round loss to the Magic, but because of their average play, we are where we are tonight. It's game 5. It's a must win. I am pumped for it. Let's go Sixers. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Remember to recalibrate your energy Go have yourselves a Tuesday, and let's do this. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.